Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Ishvaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanantam Satguru Pranatoshmaham Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. Kenopanishad, page 99, right? We saw Swami Paramarthananda. He was saying that due to ignorance, devotees degrade the grandeur of the Lord, limiting it to some object of worship. So the moment that we put the Creator, or even the Creator, which does not create anything in truth, the Nirguna, Brahman, or Saguna, Ishvara, in the form under certain attributes given, which is all about human projections, as we know. And then we are somehow offending. We are reducing the Lord to something very small. And not only small, but it's only on this or that place I will see God. So we know that Vishvarupa Darshana, que é a visão, the vision of the Lord manifests as the entire cosmos, is the ultimate understanding of God in its in his or her or its material cause appearing as the material effect, the so-called cosmos or universe. So you see the entire creation as God is great. You see the intelligence holding the creation, the physical material, vyavahara, even greater, until we develop the subtlety and purification and refinement to see God as our very nature. Conscious existence of non-dual nature. Because again and again in the Kenopanishad, this verse, they refer to the five senses and say, Jesus is the real thing, is the real God, is the real Brahman, not the thing that these people worship about or meditate about. So it's not really insult, but there is a passage here that the devotee, once it grows up, it grows into maturity and refinement, it just apologize, saying that forgive me, my Lord, forgive my ignorance, my insults, accept my apologies. You are all pervading and therefore formless, attributeless, colorless, shapeless. Only for the sake of meditation, I can just reduce the Lord, the true Lord, to something more tangible. Those are the tools, the instruments, the given by the scriptures, which is referred to something that scripture presents now, adhyaropa, so that later on can be taken back as apavada. Therefore, continue doing what you're doing. You will be on the screen now. The devotee is still in his forgiveness. Or it is a nice prayer that he presents in apology to the Lord. He say, you are beyond descriptions, your true nature. No? Glory, I was missing out. So I declare Bhagwan is not here. I never knew a place where he was not. Therefore, I did visit, out of ignorance, I did visit many places, hoping that I was going to find Bhagwan. But after coming to Vedanta, after coming to the Upanishads, I understood no, that the Lord is all pervasive and I don't need to go anywhere to find the Lord, to worship the Lord, to love the Lord. Therefore, I seek apology. So there are two levels of the all-pervasive Lord. So when we say Saguna Ishvara, it is, this principle is all-pervasive within Mithya, okay? Because it is the intelligence that sustains everything. The intelligence that holds everything by laws and principles, bringing about this incredible festival, wonder of colors and shapes and creatures and objects, all beautifully structured, intelligently designed. So this is a beautiful vision of Ishvara as all-pervasive. You need the intelligent cause to hold this thing in place, So if you see God as the all-pervasive intelligence holding the Mithya reality in place, you got to the bottom of it. But then if you see that this God is not really real, the real God is just the nature of the seer, the nature of the observer. It's the very consciousness reflecting the human subtle body, producing the human consciousness. If you see God as consciousness, and then the game changes. It changed completely. And that's called freedom from dependence. Dependence on what? Even dependence on God. You got the true nature of God, which is free and independent, even from Sarguna God itself, which, by the way, is my very nature. And then at that point, there is not even much point in seeking apology, It's just like there is only you, there is only I. Therefore, I can say, Tatvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. But Swami here comes to say that the yani is the one who, even though, the yani living within this culture, the Vedic culture, still offers reverence, love, and respect, and worship, devotion to God, Saguna God. It's just an expression of gratitude, you come, you live, you get a good birth. In this good birth, so you did not really go through fame and wars and anything like that, And then you get the karmic condition that allowed you to meet the scriptures and the guru, a Vedanta guru, So you have everything working for you, and then you get self-knowledge. You should not be disrespectful to Saguna Ishvara and being just grateful. Wow, that's great. So in combination with you, my Lord, so we worked out a beautiful parabada in this lifetime, and this birth has brought to the end my search, my seeking. So how I'm going to worship this very nature of the observer within myself? After Advaita Yana, how I'm going to continue doing puja? Well, if I know that the Lord is never in any one of these devas, It's not there. It's just the observer, the consciousness of the observer, observing the puja being performed. Brahman is the I, the very consciousness I experience through my puja. That Brahman alone is appearing as Ishvara, Jiva, Jagata, the Trinity, the three pillars of Mithya. It appears with numberless namarupas. So what happens is that thereafter, the yoni do not probe much into the elements and the configurations of namarupas, because Mithya does not require spending too much time upon. So you move from this puja orientation based on the triangle format, Jiva feeling insecure and afraid, filled with desires for protection, look for protection within Ishvara, in a world that appears to be very threatening. So mature yani or Vedantini will go and move into the binary format, knowing particularly well that there is only one reality, and that is Satya, which is the nature of the conscious observer. And everything else is just an appearance within I consciousness, a superimposition or a reflection in consciousness. So the yani does even puja maybe, some of them, but just as a role to respect the culture, but it just learns to abide in Satyam as Satyam. So what is the real God? The God that have been worshipped, all these verses are being pointing to that. The gods you have worshipped is not the real Brahman. So what is the real Brahman? Is the principle, consciousness, existence principle. It's a very, very profound pointer. It is disturbing for most devotees which are emotionally engaged and attached to those Ishta Devatas. But if you are a real mature seeker of truth, that emotional attachment is already loosened up. Therefore, shifting from the triangular to the binary format should not bring any shock or disturbance. We should be able to claim, yes, I understood. There is only Brahman as conscious existence. It's limitless because it's one without a second. And therefore, I cannot, exclude myself. If there is only one reality, and this is Brahman, this expression of consciousness, meaning to say the reflection of consciousness, I cannot be excluded from this one reality without a second. Therefore, I have to say, me too, I'm sorry, but I try to keep myself outside of God. Fundamentally, now I discover that it's the very intrinsic nature of I, the conscious observer. So without any shame, without any vanity, without any pride, the mature Vedanti will say, yes, aham brahmasmi. Is yana Vedanta is yana pradhana. The whole game of Vedanta or orientation of Vedanta or tendency or disposition of Vedanta is not emotional. You're not looking for emotional high like you get as a dualistic devotee, relating to one of these devatas. They say, oh no, but I love devotion, I love the emotion, I love the feeling of love for God. So a lot of people is said to be hooked to that, and they do not let go of the triangular format because they are pradhana, emotionally pradhana. There is a domination of the emotion they get, the value within that relationship rather than the knowledge they obtain, we see the relationship with something that ultimate collapse to become, I just worship that which is my intrinsic nature. In the Bhakti literature, they will repeatedly tell, oh, you are only a good bhaktas if you start shedding tears. How incredible, huh? How incredible. Very emotional, sentimental, more or less like the cries Arjuna had in the battle, in the battlefield. The only difference that there was not attachment to God, but it was attachment to his family members on the other side. So some devotees go to the extent to take some onions in their pockets so that during the puja, they can show some tears. Okay, you can shed tears, no harm. With or without onions, better without onions. Remember, sooner or later, you're going to have to grow up and go beyond all of these things. You become a yani bhakti or advaita bhakti. This verse is very, very profound for mature people only. Otherwise, it is very disturbing for immature people. No? So beautiful. This verse is not only profound, but liberating for mature people, but very disturbing and offensive for immature people. Right, Lynn? So we move to the verse number 6, that which cannot be apprehended by the mind, but by which they say, the mind is apprehended. So interesting, this canon that keeps saying, they say, who are these? These, the rishis or what? It's that which cannot be apprehended by the mind, but by which they say the mind is apprehended. That alone, know that alone as Brahman, and not that which people here worship. As we know, our true nature can never be experienced objectively. The mind will never apprehend consciousness because consciousness is the very intrinsic nature of the mind. Therefore, being much subtler than the mind, it can never really be objectified by the mind because the subtler can objectify the denser and denser and denser. We saw in the Drisha. So you see the subtler is that which can never be seen, the more subtle. Because there is no instrument to see something that is beyond any instrument of perception we know. But yet we should know Brahman as Brahman. We should know. And that's what Vedanta is all about. This is very important. Another profound mantra, even more profound, because before we were saying about the ear, the eyes, and these things, the other instrument. Now we go to the mind. The mind is subtler than the instrument, the five senses. Now it's even more subtle, more profound, because we are, in general, people are so identified with the body-mind, and to say that the mind can never know its true nature objectively. The mind is apprehended by that which is your true nature. And the problem here is that your true nature is consciousness, is not an experiencing, knowing entity. Yet, by inference, we know that if we pull consciousness from the body-mind complex, so the entire body-mind sense complex is out of work. So consciousness must be there supporting or backing up the mind through which perceives the world, but consciousness without the mind, without the body-mind, is not a perceiver, is not a knower, it's not an experiencer. So who experiences this world? Who knows the world? The mind cannot really know because it does not have its own consciousness, its own sentience. It borrows, consciousness from consciousness. Consciousness cannot really know the world and experience the world without the body-mind. Therefore, this becomes one of those very, very profound philosophical debates. Who is experiencing the world, the body-mind or consciousness? And my take is that both. Consciousness through the pair of glass can see the world. Without the pair of glass cannot see the world. Consciousness through the body-mind can see the world. Without it cannot see the world. So let me try then. Let me have my glasses to see the world. The glass by itself cannot see the world. The body-mind by itself cannot see the world. It needs what? The eyes of the eyes. So consciousness sees the world through the body-mind. Consciousness is the only source of knowingness, let's say. It's very profound. It does remove several misconceptions regarding self-knowledge. Indeed, another angle regarding self-knowledge. So is the mind, the self-knowledge happening to the mind? Or what it is something that can be objectified by the mind, the self, so that now you know the self. And if it does not happen in the mind, where does it happen? So all of that is very subtle. But we know that the self can never be apprehended by the mind, and the self is not a different spiritual, mystical state of the mind. There's nothing to do. Anything that appears within the mind, is appearing within consciousness, because the mind is being backed up by consciousness. The consciousness never appears in the picture, it's always behind the camera. Brahman is that which is not an object of your mind or thought. It's neither knowable as an object, nor it is experienceable as an object. So this Brahman is not knowable as an object, neither experienced as an object. We know that. And to add more subtlety and profundity to this, we have to remember that on top of that, Brahman is not a knowing, experiencing entity as well. Brahman is neither knowable as an object nor experienced as an object. It's neither known nor experienced. So while it is not an object of the mind itself is an object of Brahman, consciousness. From the standpoint of consciousness and consciousness only, I know my mind. But the most intriguing thing is the mind, although it does not have its own self-contained consciousness, it gets consciousness from consciousness, the only reality. The mind has something that's often described as self-reflective. It has the power to reflect upon itself. You understand? Because the mind can see its mental process, the mind can see its tendencies, its attitudes, its notions. It's all happening in this self-reflected instrument that reflects even upon itself. So consciousness is not a knowable object, nor experienced. So while it's not an object, the mind itself is an object of the Atma. But how the Atma can objectify consciousness? Through the mind. It uses the mind to reflect upon the mind. Everything is happening every knowingness is happening to consciousness, but it needs an instrument of knowledge, and that is the mind, meaning to say at this level, the fine, refined intellect. So the mind becomes an object to consciousness that can objectify the content of the mind through the mind, which is the only instrument of objectification. So the mind is an object of consciousness, not the other way around. That's why we can say, I am aware of my own mind. Mind does not reveal me, but it's illumined and revealed by me. Mind alone does not reveal me. Mind reflects me, blessed by consciousness, which ultimately is the real Drig, the real observer, the real seer. I, consciousness, reveal the mind and its contents, its conditions, its states. Therefore, it's not an object of the mind, but is the subject conscious existence principle, blessing the mind with an experience. Do we find a bless to be given so much experiences in life? We get so easily trapped in the world of duality, experiencer and object of experience. But it's through this friction between experiencer and experience that we develop purity and refinement of the mind. It's this interaction, dualistic interaction between the seer, the experience, and the experience that allows us to connect the dots and develop wisdom. You understand? On the other hand, I reveal the mind and its conditions. Therefore, it's not an object of the mind, but it's the subject behind the mind. Swami Shimaya gives an example, a very simple but profound example. We could not expect anything different. We'll have a torchlight, and then in the night, there is no power, and then you use your torch to see things, and it's a powerful instrument. But that light cannot be used to look inside to see the batteries within the torchlight. You see that. So the light, the battery, you cannot say that cannot see, the torch cannot see itself, because when there is light, it even illumines itself, but it cannot illumine the battery within the torchlight. Whatever you do, you cannot see the battery. And if you remove the battery to bring the torch, you see the battery, there is no light. So that is the case with consciousness behind the mind. If you want to see consciousness, and then what happens? You have to remove consciousness to see the body-mind. When you remove consciousness, the body-mind is over. It's kaput. Suppose you want to bring the Atma out to see clearly and have an experience of Brahman with your mind. The mind will be out. The mind will be dead. The body-mind is going to be over because you removed consciousness from it. Therefore, remember, it's not an object on the other side of the mind. It's a subject which is behind the mind, so quote unquote. It's not the objectified, it is the objectifier of everything, including the mind as well. Therefore, that which can never be known or experienced by the mind. And yena ahuhu manu.ya, because of which consciousness alone, mind itself is known or aware. That consciousness, which is my very self, that Brahman I am, Know that Brahman to be yourself, the only reality. From this mantra, we come to know that any mystic, this is another byproduct here. From this mantra, Swami says, we come to see more clearly that any state of the mind, any epiphany or mystical, esoteric experience that we may have through the mind, all of that come under anathema. Why it comes under anathema? Because the real atma cannot be objectified. It never comes into the category of an object of experience. Oh, but I had such a wonderful mystical experience. And I met face-to-face Brahman. I felt completely transformed, transcended everything, and I stayed, ate. People talk about Brahman as an experience, always in the past tense. Always in the past tense. All of that is just more anathema, more mithya objects. Wherever you have it in the form of ordinary experience or extraordinary experience, they are all mithya objects of experience. Therefore, they are all the anathema, spiritual anathema. If a person gains varieties of mystical or mystic experience during meditation, and then that goes, once you suspend the effort to keep the mind within that state, that coming and going states and experience, mystic experience, all of that come under anathema or mithya, spiritual samsara. It's anathema only. This is a shock for most people. Not for us. We are mature people. We understand. Have been there. You have been there, Mark.
Yeah, I've been there a few times. Actually, this reminded me of James's triangle format, where Atma sat at the very top on its own and everything came beneath that. And I remember him drawing a line and said, nothing crosses this line between Mithya and Sati.
Yeah, that's the real thing. Nothing from below can objectify what is the most subtle. Okay. Who was there before the mystic experience appeared, and who continues to be there even after it has gone? It's so simple, Vedanta. It's the most simple thing. It says that nothing escapes consciousness. Everything happens within the scope of consciousness. We remember things due to consciousness. Consciousness was there before any beautiful experience, is there during the experience and after the experience. And this is something that can be seen in a very practical, experienceable way. It's not a philosophy. Consciousness is always there. It's that which is never not present. Mystic experiences are there, but they are nothing. This is very powerful. Mystic experiences are there, but they have nothing to do with true spirituality, and much less with self-knowledge and moksha. There's nothing to do with spiritual wisdom. And yet, most of these gurus, they attract people who are totally sold on freedom as an experience, not as the knowledge of your true nature. These gurus, they had some certain mystical experience here and there, some epiphanies, and they proposed themselves as spiritual guides. And all these people, just like they're craving for a mystical experience, they just go behind these gurus. And here some says this has nothing to do with spirituality, nothing to do with spiritual wisdom or self-knowledge, nothing to do. It's just more samsara, subtle spiritual samsara. Yesterday, I was giving my class in Portuguese, and then one of my students said, "Oh, but it's okay. I mean, we experience things in this world. I want to have this experience. I want to have a mystical experience because anyhow, I'm experiencing things all the time." Hmm? And I said, "Okay, but this is samsara. If you want to choose certain experience at the cost of others, know that the better the experience, the more chance you have to become hooked and attached to that experience. And to be attached to sattva, guna, and the states it produces is the greatest obstacle before self-knowledge is really gained. So be careful with what you wish, because the better experience are spiritual by nature, are mystical by nature, and they have a strong power to delude the person. Now, there are several traditions that talk in those terms, even the Buddhism, some of those sections or parts or different schools within Buddhism say, so, I mean, you're going to touch me, Buddha. Now, if you find me on the way before you just get your freedom, chop my head off, no? Cut my head off. Do not get attached to anything that you can see, touch, feel, and experience by the mind. This is a profound corollary to be extracted out of this mantra. We never negate the possibility of mystic experience. In deep meditation, we do see there's so many literatures that say, oh, you do the meditation, then you're going to see things, you're going to smell things, you're going to hear things, you know? There is all these kinds of mystical, subtle phenomena that happens in deep meditation. And then they meditate, oh, I got it. Oh, look, I heard it. Oh. And then one is very excited. And then Vedanta comes and says, okay, so what now? It has come and it has gone. And now, where is your Om? Where is your Krishna? Like Ramana Maharaj said to Papaji, where is your Krishna now? But it requires such a maturity to come to that point of understanding that you say, not this, and you reject any and all spiritual experience as well, especially those which are the most binding, the most seducing.
Arlindo,
Right.
it reminds me of the TM movement that I was really invested in for a long time. And at some point, we, in your quote unquote progress, you took up the TM City program, which was based on Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And then it was just that, those experiences of that finest sound, or you do a sutra for smell, and then your mind would get this beautiful odor, you know, this wonderful perfume. And you kept on going like that and going like that. And I think of it as the method of exhaustion. You know, you just keep going, and finally the lights turn on. This can't be it, you know, because it's just, as you say, it's pitiful, really, to spend your whole life pursuing these very limited experiences.
Yeah. These certain things can be experienced and can be even used as a good device. I heard that there was some traditions and gurus that used to create an environment of deep meditation. And then when once people were in deep meditation there, a certain fragrancy would be released, okay? And then people would associate that mental state with the perfume. And then he used to present the fragrancy before they begin meditating, because that suggestion would bring about the state. This is a strategy that can be used, provided you are saying you need a certain state to inquire into the nature of reality, for no other reason, but only for that, you know? But know that none of this experience is really what's going to free you. It's going to cause more binding desire for more, like James used to say, more, better, and different. Swami goes a little bit into the sound thing and saying that according to the Tarka Shastra, sounds is produced in two different methods, either by the coming together of two objects called association, or because of separation between two principles or objects, you make a sound. When you tear paper in two pieces, you make a sound, as an example of separation. Therefore, by union or by separation or dissociation, you can get a sound. That is called hatha sabdaha. Hatha sabda alone is manifest to the normal ears. But there is another sabda called anahata sabdaha, okay, which is always there in the subtler akasha level, because the guna of akasha is what? Sound. Yeah? The property of space is sound. It always says, when you go to the level of subtlety of the akasha, there is a sound there. But this has to be a meditation guided, backed up by so much knowledge of the elements, so that you bring your meditation to space. In the chapter 11 of the Gita that I'm unfolding to my Portuguese group, Brazilian group, it's presented as something. You see Vishvarupa, you get this vision of God as manifest the entire cosmos. And then I like to present the concept of seeing this vision of Lord, which is no longer limited by a single name, color, and form or attribute, but now it's the totality of all names, colors, and forms. This is a second level. A third level is to see it not as one form, not as the totality of all form, but to see it as the formless intelligence that holds it all together. This is the third level. And in the 11th chapter, Swamiji presents, or Krishna presents, that another level is to, from seeing the entire cosmos manifests as a totality of all namarupas, you see it as akasha, space. Because space, it comes right after sattvaguna. You have sattvaguna. Out of this intelligence, which is the Lord, he's going to play with the other gunas and bring about akasha, space, which is going to hold together, contain, or accommodate the entire cosmos. And it goes beyond all these galaxies, and nobody knows the end of akasha. It's one of the mysteries. So if you bring your meditation from one tadeva to the totality of the manifestation, of the cosmos, you bring it then on another level to the space. After the space level, you can go to the supreme intelligence, holding it together until you go to I myself as the nature of the conscious subject principle, the observer. So when you go to Akasha, Swami says here, what is this? Swami says here, when you go down to the Akasha, you're going to, regardless of your desire to experience such a thing, you're going to experience a certain sound. Because the very nature of Akasha is sound. The intrinsic attribute of nature is sound. So these scriptures explain that when a person goes very deep in meditation and bring one's object of meditation to Akasha or space, the person will be able to hear a sound which is Amkara Sabda. In meditation, you may hear it. And similarly, some people say, I get varieties of colors. And when you fixate on what? The shape and the form and the color of Vishvarupa, Ishvara, and then in the subtle level, you start having visions of varieties of namarupas, colorful, wonderful namarupas. If you just focus on Vishvarupa Ishvara by the sounds that this cosmos produce, you may hear, most commonly bells ringing, and this and that until you just experience Om, All these are said to be possible even in the Upanishad itself. Therefore, varieties of forms, sounds, and sometimes even smell is said to be available. Varieties of smell, form, etc. You have extraordinary experience if you go deep into meditation. The scriptures does talk about all of that. But which scriptures? Not the Vedantic scriptures. Vedanta says it has nothing to do with spiritual development. Nothing to do. It has nothing to do with true spirituality. These have nothing to do with spiritual knowledge of moksha. It has nothing to do with moksha. What then is self-knowledge? Is the knowledge I am the only reality behind the arriving and departure of all experience, including the extraordinary experience, including the experience of all these mystical sounds, smells, and seeing, and colors, and so on. I am the consciousness. Before the experience took place, I was there. After I am there, during I'm there, nothing escapes the light of consciousness. This is self-knowledge. Therefore, one must develop what? This passion towards what? Any and all kinds of experiences, including mystical experiences. Oh, but I'm free, I got a knowledge, so I'm not gonna get attached. So the attachment can be prevented if you observe the intensity of desire. You may have to have an experience, a specific experience. Oh no, I'm young, I'm not gonna get attached, but I want to have one of these mystical sound experience. So if desire is there, and then there is no real dispassion, there is no real equanimity, because life is experiencing. Now we experience all the time. Sometimes we get tired of experiencing, and then we go to Vedanta. I want knowledge and not experience. Suppose that Marx says, I am interested in the smell, so therefore I'm going to meditate on the smell. And then the Guru says, go after the smell, but understand that the smell that you get in this mystical experience is anathema. You are on the pursuit of something that is anathema. And then the person says, but I'm always experiencing anathema. But you are being forced to experience anathema. It's designed by Ishvara. Now, if you want to go to experience these extraordinary things that you are not forced to, you are making a deliberate force to experience the subtle, spiritual, mystical anathema, which is one of the last obstacles to self-knowledge. Even in Yoga Shastra, they talk about varieties of things you may experience. At the end, what does it say? The Yoga Shastras themselves say they are only obstacles to true spirituality. I found it so beautiful when I read it today. Even the Yoga Shastras, they say that. Going after mystic experience is the final obstacle to self-knowledge and moksha. In Vedantic meditation, I do not look for any new experience, ordinary or extraordinary. Extraordinary even is the most dangerous. Oh, no, I want to eat spaghetti today. Oh, you want to eat? It's okay, it's not going to give you any harm. Give your pizza or your spaghetti, you're in the mood, have it. Huh? But, oh, I want to have that mystic experience again. That's something to be very alert and vigilant about. Where is the desire rising from? I should come to the maturity to understand that I do not need any experience, because everything I experience is anathema. It's not the self, which is the only knowledge that is going to resolve my mind, pacify my mind, and give me a sense of freedom that nobody understands, is never found as an anathema, in an anathema object of experience. Vedantic meditation, my job is not look for an experience, but it's look for what understanding, what the scriptures are pointing to. I want to know what is the true nature of this I. I'm beyond all the five koshas. I'm beyond everything, beyond the before. That I happens to be the very Brahman I'm searching for. Fortunately or unfortunately, I am the Brahman I was searching for. It's not dependent on my likes and dislikes. It is a fact that Aham Brahmasmi. Now I'm free from delusion, and I can confidently and in total humility declare that I am that Brahman I was looking for in the world of objects, anathema objects. All objects are anathema. Thus, a Vedantic student should never work for having any sort of interdimensional experience. I mean, how are you going to tell this to people? No? People sometimes, after being years and years and years and years in Vedanta, they still fall for these things. You should never work for any of these experiences, either in Jagrata or Svaptana Avastha, in whatsoever mental state, waking state, dream state, or samadhi state. So any experience, even the experience you get in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, are anathema. That's why Vedanta does not prescribe Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Vedantine is not interested in any of these things. You need to stay in the waking state, Jagrata Avastha. In this awake state, purify the mind, refine the mind, and then submit the mind to the teachings of the Upanishads until you can understand and claim confidently, Aham Brahmasmi, the scriptures were right. Do you understand, Philip? Do you understand, Sylvia?
Yes.
Therefore, the Kenopanishad teacher says, what is going to free you is not an object of any type of experience. You are the witness conscious principle, which is having a mystic experience. You are that consciousness, and nothing escapes consciousness. Not anything which is agama payatvam. Let me see if I can infer the meaning of these difficult words. So it has no, it's not colored by the gunas. Savikaratamvam, it's not the nature of savikalpa or drishya, it's not an object. Drishi is the nature of drisha, not it's not the nature of drisha or objects perceived and known. And it's on those lines. Okay. None of these things, all of that is seen by the real seer, which is Drik, not Dristya. I am of the Drik nature, Drik Atvam. And for that, what is the English word? Oh, Swami is saying that the English word is O-M-A-C-T. No? I am none of anything which is classified as O-M-A-C-T. Now I got liberation. Because I heard you say, I understood now, I just need to remember O-M-A-C-T and all is good. All mystic experience come under the category of O-M-A-C-T. Every experience is an object. It is material / energy that you experience. It has attributes. It's changing from moment to moment, and it's bound by time. It disappears. The true nature of Brahman you were seeking for is of non-OMACT nature. And then it continues. It continues in the verse 7 that we'll get to tomorrow because it's already known here. But the next verse is that which cannot be perceived by the eye, but by which the eye is perceived. That alone you should know as Brahman, and not that which people see. Again, very profound verse. So how can we perceive our eyes? This is a good conversation. The eye can perceive everything, but it cannot perceive itself in the common sense of the word. But it's seen by something on a different level. Consciousness, with the aid of the mind, can see the eye and can infer or can experience directly if the eye is in good shape or not. We'll talk about that tomorrow. The eye can be the physical instrument, like all the 5 sense instruments. They have the instruments which are physical, and there is the organ, which is much subtler, which belongs to the mind. I have a mental eye and I have a I have an instrument, physical instrument, which is my right and left eyes. Okay, so we meet tomorrow. 99% sure tomorrow. If by any chance I need to postpone this class of tomorrow, which I don't think will be necessary, I will send you guys a message, a request tomorrow, okay? Anything else?
I think for most spiritual seekers, they come to Vedanta after they've had spiritual experiences because they realize the spiritual experiences didn't actually set them free and can't set them free. And so it works the other way, if you see what I mean.
Well,
rather than relying on spiritual experiences.
yes.
Once you've had them and you realize they don't actually function, do what they say on the box, then Vedanta's, you know.
When we look at somebody who did not need to give up the vasana for experience, such as the case of Ramana Maharaj at the age of 16 or 17, you know, it means to say that he did a lot of sadhana to develop this passion towards experiencing previous births. You cannot give up that which you do not have. You can give up things that you have or have had experienced in this case. You have the knowledge of mystical experience, and then you can give it up as something of great value. Well said. Okay. We meet tomorrow again, same time, in the same anathema world. It's the only world we have, the anathema world. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudacate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Namaste. Meet again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arlinda.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Bye-bye.